the most qualified people, they either join one of these big universities here, who have the chance to do that, or they move abroad and teach abroad. So what is left in the small colleges are people who really want to stay in India for sure and don't want to move abroad because they don't feel comfortable, or people who are underqualified, let's say.
I have observed like teachers are not passionate about teaching. But most of the time, if they are not able to land a good job or good place in the industry,
They
the teaching
end up
become their
teaching.
last option.
Yeah. So those who cannot really get out and accomplish what they want to end up teaching, and of course they're frustrated because they couldn't really make it in the make it where they want to.
I have a very like big problem with the word called fresher.
Yeah.
Like people have spending so many years in education, academics, still after once they stepping out, they are called as a fresher. They have learned something, so how can they be fresher? And why you have not involved them into the industry?
Because outside it's mandatory. I mean, unless you do an internship, you don't graduate, because that experience is mandatory for you to have, for them to give you a degree saying that okay, this guy is certified to join the workforce, which is not happening over here.
In our center, there was no classrooms.
Ah,
There was no board.
okay.
We ran that for 4 years, and there was not a single board class like session inside that. What we used to do, it was a journalism mass communication institute. So from day one, I've made like five students in a group, and I gave them one camera, and we started. And the idea was like with every batch, we used to start one education portal. One
Okay.
anything like first we started theater portal, then we started news portal, and all the students were 1% partner of that portal.
Perfect.
If
Yeah.
that portal is growing, like in 4 years, you have to just work on that particular thing. That is your startup. You work, study here only. Instead of getting feedback from the teachers, you will get feedback from the direct audience.
Most of the countries in Europe, medical system is free. Healthcare is free. So, for example, I went as a student to Italy, and once I was there, I got my residence card. With the residence card came my health card, and everything is free.
And that too without any insurance amount, nothing.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
70% is straight up covered by the government, and 30% you have to cover it yourself if you want to, or you can get an insurance. My mother had to undergo cataract surgery, and she's like, I have to go get tests. And okay, some basic tests you have to get done because you are put under anesthetic and everything. Then she's like, I have to get my HIV test. And, huh? HIV test for what? What reason?
Welcome to another episode of Asli Kahani Podcast. There are those rare people who have walked many paths, worked in top research labs, and started their own company, mentored global startups, and somehow still manage to stay humble. Well, today's guest is exactly that. He's lived across 5 countries, worked on groundbreaking research in HIV and microbiomes, and even built a biotech startup from scratch. He holds a PhD degree in medical biotechnologies, an international MBA, and over 15 years of leading innovation in life sciences. He has lived and worked in India, Italy, the US, Denmark, and now France, combining deep academic rigor with building business insights. Get ready for a story that blends science, startups, and some serious hustle. His story is one of purpose, persistence, and the passion to create meaningful change through science. So, to speak about all those things, we have a very amazing guest with us today. I'll welcome you, Mr. Dr. Kevin Mendonca.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot for coming here and taking out time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
We are very excited and we are waiting like so many things we are going to uncover today.
Hopefully we'll.
So
have some
first
good
thing where I want to start now, like
Yeah.
in our country, we see the people are madly like trying to go abroad.
Yes, that's the norm. I mean,
and
that's
yeah,
the dream, and that's what
correct.
people expect from
Expect, and they feel that while moving abroad, their life is settled, everything is sorted.
you. Yes.
Yeah, but I want from you, like, if you can just tell the reality, what people are thinking, what's the difference, what are the real difference, and what we have some myths heard about abroad and all those?
Yeah, I mean, let's say first of all, let's start with the education system.
Correct.
There are huge differences in the education system. Let's be honest, because most of the universities abroad are at a level which is really good, and they have a proper structure, and the education system has been going on from centuries, and they've developed that entire structure. So they focus more on getting the workforce into the market. So they're trained in okay, you can choose academics, but just to give an example, when you're pursuing your masters, for example, it is mandatory for you to have an internship somewhere for you to complete your master's course. Unless you've done an internship and you have that certificate, you don't graduate. That's a necessary part of the story. Here, for example, that's not there. So when especially in biological sciences, let's say MSc courses or courses like that, when you biomedicine or microbiology or anything, you are not required to do an internship. So when you complete your course and you graduate and you're out of your masters, let's say you have absolutely no experience whatsoever in the actual workplace. That becomes very difficult for people to then take you in without any sort of experience. And already there's a lot of pressure, because most of the companies that we need minimum this much experience, and freshers usually struggle, and they do an internship, try to do an internship after the masters, after spending such a lot of time and effort getting a master's degree, which is something which needs to be changed, let's say. There are some institutes which here, I mean, the good ones, let's say, in India, the good institutes, for example, right here, there's IISc, one of the best in the world. You cannot argue about that. Yeah, it's in the top. I mean, it can compete with any university in the world, let's say. And there are IITs and IIMs which are at that level. But again, the core issue is from the beginning, it has been population. Yeah. So there are so many people, so many students who want to join good colleges and schools every year. There's just no space. So then, the next, of course, if you don't go, it's very, very difficult to get into one of these IIMs, IITs or IISc and stuff like that. So people usually look for other colleges. And there, what happens is now the trend is, it's like, what's the infrastructure? How many acres, land there? It's built on, and
The fancy
it's
setups.
I don't know what's happening, to be honest. I don't know the logic behind that. You're spending so much money to get education, not to look at how many acres the university has, and does it have AC or the facilities like that. Yeah, so yeah, there's a difference. But one thing I would say is, for higher education, I would definitely recommend US or one of the English-speaking European countries, because otherwise it's going to be a big struggle. European education system is good. For example, Germany. There are many places like France and other Italy as well, where the education is pretty much free. You have to just pay taxes, yearly taxes, and that's it. You don't pay fees for your education, which becomes very attractive. But yeah, language is a big issue. So I would really suggest something like UK, Australia, or US. If you want to do your higher education and you don't get into one of this nicer colleges in India, yeah, the second choice would be go abroad and get a decent education, instead of doing it in some college which has 300 acres of land with no proper
Correct. I think hardly people ask and check the qualification of the teachers who are
of
going
the
to teach
yeah.
them.
See, that's what has happened, right? Because the most qualified people, they either join one of these big universities here, who have the chance to do that, or they move abroad and teach abroad. So what is left in the small colleges are people who really want to stay in India for sure and don't want to move abroad because they don't feel comfortable, or people who are underqualified, let's say.
Because I've spent like almost a decade in higher education in
Yeah.
India. So I have observed like teachers are not passionate about teaching. Mostly, like I'm not saying all the teachers, we have amazing teachers also, but most of the time, if they are not able to land a good job or good place in the industry,
They
the teaching
end up
become their
teaching.
last option.
Yeah.
Okay, let's enter into education and And I feel really like sad about this thing. This should not happen like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good old saying, they say those who cannot do teach. So, that's what has happening in most of the places in India, I guess. So those who
Yeah.
cannot really get out and accomplish what they want to end up teaching, and of course they're frustrated because they couldn't really make it where they want to. But then most of the let's say good teachers who want to be in teaching, who the professors who are interested in teaching and going in the academics are usually researchers. They are academic researchers, or you have been in the system for a long time. For example, when I finished my PhD, I was like I think 32 already. Then I finished all my postdocs. I was 34. So until then, I was just studying. So for a person like me or people like me, it's like you spend so much time in academia. You don't even think of going to the industry side. Until you really force yourself to. My journey was after doing all that. I wanted to do something. I started my own company, and then I realized the difficulties of being an entrepreneur, getting into the business and all that, and that is why I decided to, after all that qualification, to go ahead and do a MBA again. But yeah, usually people who stick to the academics, especially abroad, right, or even people like ISC, you can just go have a look. I mean, they're so involved with their research, and when they teach kids, there you can see that they really want to impart some knowledge based on what they've done, based on what they've uncovered in the years, and based on they give them good basics and then develop from there. And you go to the labs, it's a pleasure. They sit and yeah, there of course there are people who are like really focused on the research and don't put in a lot of effort into teaching. There are professors everywhere like that, even in the US, and they're like, okay, I want to get this done. Teaching is secondary, but usually that's not the case, let's say. But here, because that whole infrastructure is not there, like you said, they're really not. I mean, they just go there, they have their timetable and schedule. They're not involved in any research. They don't want to keep themselves updated. So they just go there, see the textbook and the curriculum, and just give the lectures and take the exams, and that's it.
They are just running behind to complete the books.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
is
They have to
assigned.
just complete the syllabus, and that's
Syllabus, that's it.
and exams, invigilate,
Correct,
end of the stories, score them. That's it.
And as you nicely mentioned, like the fresher thing, like I have a very like big problem with the word called fresher.
Yeah.
Like people have spending so many years in education, academics, still after once they're stepping out, they are called as a fresher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then what they are doing during the academic time?
Yeah.
They have learned something, so how can they be fresher? And why you have not involved them into the industry?
Yeah, that's what that's why I talked about internship right in the beginning. It's a nice transition. That's what is happening, everywhere abroad. When at a master's level, especially at the master's level, bachelor's level, okay, you can say, okay, fine, it's a bachelor's degree. You can go outside, get some experience, and then if you want, you can do your master's. But when somebody is pursuing a master's degree, he's already at a certain level, and it's important to have some sort of internship wherever it may be. It may be at an industry or maybe somewhere else. Doesn't matter. But depending on the student's preference, if the university is actively involved in getting them placed as an internship for 6 months, for example, or do a project outside, because most business school, they'll send you out to some one place to get the project done, or consultancy project, or whatever project it is. That is where that is the thing which gets you a transition between being completely academic to getting getting your feet wet into the real world, and then you can of course take up job. You can end up staying at the same place where you did your internship, or your internship can be a stepping stone for some other company to hire you. So which is what is really lacking in the Indian education system, let's say, because that internship is not given the importance it should be getting, because outside it's mandatory. I mean, unless you do an internship, you don't graduate, because that experience is mandatory for you to have, for them to give you a degree saying that, okay, this guy is certified to join the workforce, which is not happening over here. You just know the theory. There are people who can pick up and apply the theory and get into the real world very fast, but there are people who struggle to do that. This is a nice transition, like a 6 months internship, let's say. It's a nice transition to get to know the real, job scene and real world after the academics, what is happening, to get your feet wet, and then get into the job market.
You shared very nice thing, and I'm not able to resist myself to share that in India what I faced, it's a education mafia.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and because in 2014, I with my another like investors, we started one institute in Delhi,
Okay.
and that institute focuses on it was called as India's first onboard institute.
Okay.
So in our center there was no classrooms,
Ah,
there was no board.
okay.
We ran that for 4 years, and there was not a single board class like session inside that. What we used to do, it was a journalism mass communication institute. So from day one, I've made like five students in a group, and I gave them one camera, and we started. And the idea was like with every batch, we used to start one education portal. One
Okay.
anything like first we started theater portal, then we started news portal, and all the students were 1% partner of that portal.
Perfect.
If
Yeah.
that portal is growing, like in 4 years, you have to just work on that particular thing. That is your startup. You work, study here only. Instead of getting feedback from the teachers, you will get feedback from the direct audience.
Yeah, and the teachers are always there to help you and
Help
guide
you
you,
there,
because
correct.
that would be the most ideal situation, that could happen, where initially you get your basics right, then start off with your project or internship or whatever it is, and start doing your work. And as you go, you see what the outside world is like, what the market is like, what the scenario is like. And of course there are universities too, professors who are there to guide you and help you refine your skills, refine your strategy and everything. That is a very good way to
What
approach
happened like when
education.
they
Yeah.
were doing live projects now, so they are meeting industry, because I used to call that we are bridging a gap between academics and industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my students from day one, they are on the bridge instead of academy,
Yeah.
and they have learned a lot. Once they graduated, they didn't wrote fresher in their CV, and
That's yeah.
all of them were handpicked. But because of this, other mafias of education, they got scared and they made some issues, and that center was sealed.
That's a sad thing which is happening, I think, in India. And the second thing I think we discussed before coming over here, the quota system. I mean, which is again, I believe, is really ruining the education system, because I mean, when it comes to education, I mean, it has to be merit. It has to be merit based. I mean, okay, I can understand getting benefits like fee cut, or maybe free education. For example, the government takes care of the free fees. They don't they get some sort of benefits because they come from a underprivileged background, and yeah, I can understand that. But after a certain time, right, then it has to be merit based. If it was like, okay, you do your CET, okay, maybe the fees is completely taken care of by the government for all the let's say reserved people. Maybe they give some coaching for free. Then when you write your CET or you write your entrance exams,
It should be merit.
yeah, it should be merit based. Once you pass that phase, it should be merit based, which college you get into.
And same thing with jobs also. Like, okay, you got reservation, one generation got, then at least don't give for a generation to generation. Every generation getting same reservation.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem, right? It's the whole issue is it's snowball effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, you get into a good college, where even if your CET or whatever entrance exam ranking is pretty average, and then you don't need to put in as much effort as somebody else, because you still have reservations in the job market as well. So it just snowballs, because you get in easily, then you don't really have to apply yourself that much, and then you end up getting a position anyways. So people take it for granted. That shouldn't happen. I can understand that. Yeah, there is a let's say there is a reason why these reservations are done, because for a long time these communities have been backlined and they have to be helped. But helping in the sense, give them a push. then make it merit based so that they don't just take it for granted and then just don't apply themselves. So that has to I mean, it's a complicated topic because I can understand why it's been done, but I can understand why it's that system has been utilized in a
Again, that when it made for some good things, but later we need reforms.
yeah,
We are still
exactly.
following the
So
same
the
thing.
reforms has to be done and has to be
Yeah.
applied, especially when it comes to the education system. It has to be done at this point, because I don't think at this point in time, 2025, the caste or anything exists anymore, because I don't think the younger generation really,
They don't
they
like,
don't even realize.
especially
Yeah, I
when they
mean,
move to the cities.
yeah.
There we don't see like any kind of differences what they
It's
are finding.
maybe in the rural
Rural
areas
area, it's
somewhere it's still a
still
little bit,
exists.
but if you come to any of the educational hubs, let's say,
Yeah.
yeah, there's I mean, that's the last thing that comes into your mind. I mean, you don't even care who is what religion, what caste you come from, which background you come from. Nobody really, in a multicultural city like, for example, Bangalore, nobody really cares. You meet, you get to know each other, that's it. You know by name, and that's about it. Nobody even cares what your background is, where you come from, nothing. I mean,
Another big problem what we see, and another big like the mafia thing happens in the medical sector. So if you can highlight some differences between Indian medical system and the
yeah,
abroad.
see, I mean, the thing is, again, it's a complex issue, but let's say, let's compare. First thing, let's go to Europe. Most of the countries in Europe, medical system is free. Healthcare is free. So, for example, I went as a student to Italy, and once I was there, I got my residence card. With the residence card came my health card, and everything is free. You have to first go to your consulting doctor, which is assigned to you. Once the consulting doctor prescribes something, or prescribes a procedure or whatever it is, that's it. You just go get yourself admitted, or go to the pharmacy with your prescription. You don't pay nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. In France, which I mean, I still have my residence in France currently. There, it's a little bit different. The government takes care of 70% of the bills, and 30% you have to pay, and that 30% can be covered by what is called a mutual, which is like the add-on insurance.
Okay.
So you take that add-on insurance, 100% is covered, but 70% is covered by the government as soon as you get your social security number.
And that too without any insurance amount, nothing.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
70% is straight up covered by the government, and 30% you have to cover it yourself if you want to, or you can get an insurance. But that is also a little bit strange, because, like I said, most of the countries in Europe are free, completely free. 70% is still like, they look at them, they're like, other countries are giving it for free. Why aren't you making this free? All that comes into picture. Go to the US, completely different story. US, without medical insurance, you'd rather die at home than go to a hospital. It's that expensive. It's like the bills run up to hundreds of thousands, if you're not very careful, of dollars, let's say.
Oh.
You're talking about here the ICU beds 50,000. Yeah, just try a ICU bed in US without insurance, then you'll really know how expensive the system is.
Okay.
So yeah, it's and second thing, India cannot adapt the European system, because let's be honest, again, the root cause, population.
Population. Correct.
Because European countries, the population is very low, the GDP is very high, so the governments can afford to give them care, and whatever taxes they are taking, they're investing in this. But India, first of all, being a developing country, still a developing nation, there's lots of places the government has to prioritize when it comes to development, industrialization, and everything. So and given the population, let's say it's almost impossible for India to make healthcare free. But they should find some sort of a compromise. I mean, recently I think they're moving in the right direction, where they're giving insurance for 5 lakhs from the government and stuff
But
like that.
again, like it's on the records,
Yeah.
and on ground people are not getting benefit. That's That's the
Yeah, I mean,
ethics problem.
I guess it gets complicated because if you go without insurance, I mean, anyways, you're going to have to pay, and by the time you get that money back, you don't know when or how or what will happen, or I don't know. I'm not very sure. I haven't tested the system, so I cannot really comment on that. But what I heard was, there is the insurance the government provides for up to 5 lakhs, but how far effective it is, I really don't know. And second thing, yeah, let's say that is a different story altogether. When it comes to government hospitals where it's supposed to be free, it's pathetic. I mean, have you gone to a government hospital lately? I mean, it is pathetic. I mean, if you go to the hospital, you will get sick. I mean, the infrastructure and everything. You look at it, it's like no. I'd rather stay at home
Stay at home,
and take something which my hack prescribes than get admitted in one of those hospitals and come out worse. Go to the private sector, like you said, mafia.
Private sector, so again, like there's a shopping mall concept in the private
Yeah, I mean, we
hospitals.
discussed this a little bit. Yeah, I went, I dug up a little bit. Yeah, they've made the doctors salespeople.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
they have to meet their targets, and they have to prescribe so many tests and so many X-rays or MRIs or whatever it is tests to be done. They have to make sure so many beds are occupied. Yeah, come on. I mean, that's pathetic. I mean, that shouldn't happen, especially in healthcare. I mean, the two things where these sort of things shouldn't happen is education and healthcare. I mean, that is a sin.
That's a noble cause, and
That's a sin. I mean, come on, you cannot do that in education and healthcare. It really shouldn't happen.
it always pains like the way
It
nowadays
does
it's
it does
happening.
hurt because you see the problem is when people start growing up with that system. you know I think we touched upon it a little bit earlier. So if a doctor, I mean, I know this older generation people, you go to them, they'll look at you, they'll analyze everything, they'll have the experience, they'll tell there's nothing wrong with you, go do your exercise, go eat healthy, go back home. That's not good enough. People are like, this doctor is not good enough. He's not done any tests. He's not prescribed nothing. So I cannot trust him. But whereas, I mean, that guy is the one who's knowledgeable and telling you the right
Right
thing to do. But yeah, the system which you grow up in is become in such a way that unless you're prescribed some tests which has become a norm, and then look at the test and there's and analyze it and do something and then tell, okay, do this, take this prescription. People are not happy. The old doctors, for example, they'll give it to you straight away. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you. All that you have to do is exercise, try to reduce stress in something, stop drinking, stop smoking, stop partying too much, and you should come back to good health. Nah, that's not enough. I need my pills, I need my tests. That becomes a norm. So
it,
that's
it become the mindset that
yeah,
if we are
exactly.
eating some
Yeah,
medicines, then only we'll
and
get
why is
recovered.
it? Because of this mafia who makes doctors take a different route, and every time they have to meet their target, so they prescribe unnecessary tests. Just to give you an example, I mean, my mother had to undergo cataract surgery, and she's like, I have to go get tests. And I'm like, okay, some basic tests you have to get it done because you are put under anesthetic and everything. Then she's like, I have to get my HIV test. And, huh?
Oh my God.
HIV test for what reason? For what reason?
There's no link
Yeah,
between.
no, see, I can understand if you're undergoing surgery, you do a hepatitis test or something like that, or even a HIV test for matter, because there is blood and but anyways, you have to wear protection while doing the surgery or whatever it is. But to be cautious, it is understandable to do a test for because every time you do a blood transfusion, when they collect blood for transfusion, they have to test it mandatorily for HIV and hepatitis B and C. It's mandated by the WHO. It's mandated worldwide. So you have to test it. So I can imagine if blood is collected or if there's a surgery being done, open surgery, but cataract, why?
And again, see, because you have knowledge, so you caught this point. Okay. So I feel like nowadays, now, like few professions, everyone want to have in their first circle, like one good lawyer, one doctor, and maybe engineer or something. But lawyer and doctor, it's like becoming mandatory to have in your first circle, because I have my personal experience. One of my very close relative, she diagnosed with a cancer in 2018. And it was doctors that claimed that hardly 1 year she can survive. But my brother is a doctor, so we all consult. He consulted his own friends, his circle, and all. Then we decided ki okay, instead of doing all those treatment what doctors are recommending, still they are not giving guarantee.
Yeah, there's no
So
guarantee.
let's move them to some isolated area.
Yeah.
So we moved them into Himalayas. Now she stays there. She is still alive. It's almost 7+ years. We grow our own vegetables there. No interaction with the society. No traffic sound. Nothing. No pollution. She is fine.
Yeah, see, that happens. That happens, but these are rare cases.
Like
Let's be
willpower.
honest. Yeah, because the person also has to be able to, rewire his mentality or his
That's
or
what.
her mentality, adapt to a thing, and be positive. Because being positive helps with a lot of things, because your brain chemistry changes, and your immune system gets better, and the body is able to fight infections or any other things much better. But yeah, if you go in with the negative attitude that, I mean, I'm secluded, okay, I'll try this. I mean, it works, but I mean, scientifically, let's say there's no hard data that it's always going to
Correct.
work, even if the person goes there with a good mentality and adapts a healthy life. There is no data which says the cancer can be cured in that way. There are cases where people go into remission without nothing. So yeah, it's better to do that. But when it comes to cancer and oncology, I mean,
Like I will say that willpower and the knowledge with the combo of this.
yeah, see, that is there, because some people just give up. They're like, I cannot go through chemo anymore. I cannot just take it, or people suffer. I mean, cancer is always very, very, very painful. Then you add, let's say, on chemotherapy on top of it, which is pretty much poisonous to your body. It becomes it reaches a level where people just cannot handle it, and then they just give up. But if you can muster up the courage and survive those, unless you're in a very, very last stage and bad cases, there are treatments which really can help, because the first stage you can use immunotherapy. Immunotherapy is becoming really, really good now. At early stages it can be targeted, and then but yeah, there have to be certain kind of markers, and it gets a little bit complicated, which doctors are well equipped to take care of. The second line is like radiation, which is targeted radiation, which is like not bombarding like X-ray. It's very targeted, and you can go for that. And then the last would be, of course, chemotherapy to flush everything out, which is painful. And the science has evolved. Let's say it's really evolved, but there's no alternative to a healthy life and a healthy mental space, and stress-free life. Let's say, I was just saying, the olden, not olden days, even now, I guess, you see all this cancer outbreaks, and the epidemiology of cancer. You look at it in the urban area when compared to the rural area, where people are still living a pretty decent life
Decent
depending
life,
on the
correct.
land. You just compare the two statistics, it's
Correct.
way different.
Very different.
The
Their
the
vitals and
prevalence,
their things are very different.
yeah, no,
Like,
just compare the prevalence of cancer, incidence and prevalence of cancer in the urban stressful environment, compared to the let's say the rural environment where people live a very different lifestyle. I mean, there's a huge difference in numbers. So it has to do with what we would call epigenetics, because every time what happens is you have a certain set of you have a DNA, you have a lot of genes, but not all of them are active all the time. It's the certain genes are activated based on your lifestyle. So that shapes your internal metabolism and everything. So yeah, if you live a stress-free life, depending on your land and agriculture, you come back home, have a wife and have children, you're happy, and you're not not putting yourself in stress and eating chemical stuff, fast food, this and that. As soon as you shift, then your whole lifestyle changes. You're more stressful. You're in front of the computer. You sleep less. You eat junk food. I mean, the whole lifestyle changes, and that is when let's say the epigenetics plays, the bad genes are activated, which would ultimately lead to, uh, yeah, all sorts of complications.
See, it's very ironical that that was our lifestyle, like
Exactly.
staying there,
Yeah.
and because we do organize retreats like 5 days, 1 week retreats where people come and stay with us, and mostly we do in the farm areas where digital detox kind of thing. So no internet, keep your mobile side, wake up early morning, come, let's take walk, we do cow milking and all, so
Yeah.
people are enjoying all those things and they are feeling relaxed. They are paying like hefty amount for all those
See, I
stays.
mean, that is a retreat part of it, right?
Yeah.
The people want that experience and everything. Now, just imagine the whole organic thing. Yeah,
Correct.
people are paying double the price for organic products. And what my grandfather used to do in the farm, he used to use cow dung and he used to mix it with leaves, and that he used to put it on and grow his mango trees, grow his vegetables, and he used to do paddy fields also. There was nothing being used that was organic. Yeah. So now everything is given an organic tag and it's double the money.
True.
I mean, my grandfather would be turning in his grave right now. I was doing this for my entire life. And he used to, take his vegetables to, what they call sante, the big market once a week they used
Yeah.
to have. Yeah, he used to sell his vegetables, whatever is left over from the consumption, he used to sell it there. And, now if you go to, give it to some big retail chain which sells organic, you would have gotten good money out of it.
True, like we are going back to the roots, but with
Yeah,
a
but
double the
paying
price.
double the money,
Double the money.
double the price. But that is what was being done for a very long
Long
time,
time.
and then suddenly people changed. People started farming in a different way completely. Now going back to the older method of farming and charging people twice, thrice the amount is it's crazy. Yeah.
See, I want to I want you to just share few things like as what's your roadmap for microbiology in Bangalore, or like to medical research at Harvard and now business in Paris. Yeah, so who drove you to walk such multidisciplinary?
It happened organically. It sort of happened organically because let's say first thing first, I came from a family where education was given a lot of importance. I mean, you're like, okay, you do whatever you want to. You can hang out with friends and you can have your friends and do, but yeah, you have to get yourself educated and you have to be good at education, which I wasn't very good at. Let's be honest, until my masters. So bachelor's, I like, okay, I'm done with it. I mean, I did my BSc, and I wasn't really interested in studies at that point because some people are really interested in studies and they take it seriously and they go after. At that point, I don't know why. Probably I wasn't mature enough or whatever it is. I wasn't really into studies. Then I was forced into my masters, and the microbiology is since I was doing my BSc, which was from a scientific background, took on microbiology, which was like, okay, let's see. I mean, the things I cannot see should be pretty interesting. That was my reasoning behind. I cannot see bacteria, I cannot see these viruses or whatever it is. Maybe it would be good to study it, but I wasn't really interested in pursuing a master's in the first place. But once I got into it, and once I started doing the lab, that is when things started changing. I was good with the lab. So I was good at doing things in the lab. I was good at bacterial cultures, also they grow those things and put it under the microscope and see. And the natural transition was, the natural transition would be at that time. In Bangalore, the best thing would be biocon. As usual, everybody wanted to go to biocon after doing their masters and whatever it is. And even I tried. I didn't get through. But I was given a unpaid internship after my masters at St. John's Research Institute. They're like, okay, we have research going on in infectious diseases. At that time, I wasn't even convinced that I wanted to get into medical microbiology, because as a microbiology, you study a lot of things. Study ecology, you study industrial microbiology, you study fermentation technology, you study biochemistry, and all that stuff. Medical microbiology is a part of it, which I wasn't very sure. I mean, I didn't even think about being being a medical microbiology professional at that time. But since I got this unpaid internship, I like, okay, let me join and see what comes of it. So that is when I started doing the Gates Foundation funded projects on infectious diseases. I saw the ground reality, and then got to work in the lab as well. That is where it really started for me. I mean, I got to know the ground reality, what the importance of studying infectious diseases and how it's affecting people, especially at that time. HIV was a huge thing. I mean, still spreading quite fast, and yeah, that is where it really got me interested. And yeah, the natural progression was to, since I was already into research, natural progression was to, yeah, of course, get a PhD. And then after two postdoctoral fellowship, I like, enough. I mean, let me try and do something by myself. That is when I came back and started my startup, and I was trying to develop new diagnostic methods for detecting viruses faster. Uh, and that is when the pandemic hit, and people started knowing about this a little further. People started knowing there's only two. It's either PCR or the rapid test, antigen antibody test or whatever. There's nothing in between, all that. And that is when my proposal got selected for Startup Denmark, and I moved there, and I did a little bit here and there. But at the end of the day, funding was a problem, because when it comes to these sort of startups, right? Research, it's very research intensive, which means and even for research, you need to have proper infrastructure, like the labs, which can protect people and which can contain the infection and everything. So it gets very expensive. And the second thing is, the life cycle is very long, because it's not like a software product or a app or anything. Because after development of the product, there is at least a 5-year gap if it's diagnostics, to get all the testing done and get approvals from the government and get all the approvals for it to be commercialized. If it's a vaccine or or a new drug, it's a 10-year gap, because it has to be tested extensively, see if there are any side effects, what the efficacy is, and all that. That life cycle, by the time the drug or vaccine comes to the market, it's usually about 10 years. Okay, there are cases where in emergency they give you expedited approvals, like during the COVID, what happened. Some of the vaccines, for mRNA vaccines for example, they had been working on that from a long time, because I remember they started mRNA vaccine research because of HIV. And when I was involved with the HIV projects, they were already trying new sort type of vaccines, and they tried this mRNA vaccines. Of course, it didn't work for HIV, so they shelved it. Yeah, but the technology was there, and people then realized, okay, why HIV, it may not work, but why not try it with other viruses? Why not? But the whole issue was, traditional vaccines were working fine, so there was no ground for the funding agencies to pump in more funding to develop this kind of vaccines when the traditional vaccines were working. HIV, the traditional vaccines, there's no vaccine at all, so they did assign funding for this, but and it was shelved. But finally, these people didn't give up, and end of the day, I mean, they won the Nobel Prize for it, mRNA vaccines. And I remember the lady, I think she's Hungarian, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, Hungarian, I believe. Hungarian or Czech, one of these two Eastern European countries. There are two people who won. One guy is from the US, professor. This lady went to the US and she started working there on this mRNA vaccines and everything. And she couldn't get the funding. She had to close the lab, go back to Hungary. And at the end of the day, she was struggling. And end of the day, what happened? She won the Nobel Prize for it.
Because when we are talking about vaccines now, one thing like in after COVID,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
almost
let's get into the vaccine mafia. I mean, I can talk now, non-stop.
yeah.
I mean, it's not existent in India, luckily. But if you go abroad, for example, every flu season, they'll make you take a flu shot. For what joy? I mean, I can understand if it's a high-risk person, like, a person above certain age or person below certain age, kids or, older people. They need to get vaccinated. I can understand, but they vaccinate the entire population every year. There's a new strain of influenza, so every year there's a new vaccine, and they vaccinate the entire population, saying that, okay, it's like, if you don't take the vaccine, you can still spread. Yeah, and if you spread it to the older generation, Yeah, I can still spread, but the older generation, the people who are at high risk, if they are already vaccinated, even if I spread it to them, they shouldn't get
They
infected, right?
shouldn't.
So,
Correct.
okay, I can understand herd immunity, what they really preached about the herd immunity, if blah 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 blah. But fine. To a certain extent, yes, but if you strategically vaccinate the most vulnerable population, the normal people, influenza, I wouldn't say everybody has to get vaccinated. In India, how many people get vaccinated for flu every year?
I think before COVID, very rarely.
Even
After
now,
COVID, so
for
no,
flu
and
vaccines, I,
flu. Oh, that is there.
yeah.
Yeah, and bird flu and so many
No,
things came,
normal flu,
but no
normal
one.
influenza. You get sick, you have, runny nose, you sit
Mm,
at home, you drink your, lemon tea or
lemon,
whatever it is,
correct,
and,
correct.
do some inhaling and stuff like that, stay at home for a
Yeah.
couple of days, you'll
Few
be fine.
people don't even take that
Yeah, no, they'll be
medicines, also
fine.
nothing
I
like
mean,
that.
I can understand if a new strain comes in, like, bird flu or swine flu or whatever it is, if there's a
But
vaccine, you
still,
take
there
it.
is no vaccine. Like
Yeah. But
they get
they'll,
treated
they'll
from
now there's
different way.
technology. If something comes up, they can develop a vaccine within a matter of few months, let's say, because they have it in your and especially with that is where the AI is playing a huge role when it comes to biomedicine, because it can predict. The more you can predict what strain comes in, because for example, influenza vaccine, you don't know what strain is going to come. The normal flu, yeah, you don't know what the strain is going to come every year. But the big companies have in their repository many things already prepared and kept, so that as soon as a new strain comes in, they have you know the vaccine or the roadmap ready. They can start into production. So that's how you get new vaccine every year for flu. The flu shots which you get, it's a new strain every year. But yeah, you have the shots already ready, because they put it to the algorithm. They know how the virus evolves, and they can predict with certain amount of certainty that this is a strain which is going to come next year. So that's how. But yeah, they're putting so much money into research and everything. They want to make the best out of it. So they pressure the governments and the public health agencies, especially in countries like where the healthcare is free, and they make everybody get the flu shots. That way they recover the money and make profits out of it. So again,
And if you can highlight some like information about like after COVID vaccines, we
mhm.
are seeing so many young people are getting heart attacks or young deaths. So is it related to vaccine or it's just a myth or just
See, the thing is
miscommunication?
that they've done extensive testing on these vaccines. Okay, first let's say apologize. I wouldn't say extensive, because these vaccines were given expedited approval. Because otherwise, the normal vaccine has to be extensively tested before it comes to the market. These vaccines were given expedited approval because of the circumstances, and because yeah, they had to contain this. So there's the data is not that extensive. You don't have years of data like some other vaccines. But as far as the testing goes, I mean, the traditional vaccines which were given, mRNA vaccine, again, yeah, it's very new. It was approved for the first time during COVID time, so we really don't have enough data to say how it could affect much later in the in the years. But traditional vaccines, it shouldn't really have such kind of side effects, to be honest. It shouldn't. I mean, every drug, for example, if you take aspirin, if you take ibuprofen, it comes with a list of warnings. Every drug has some sort of issues if you already have an underlying condition. If you take a vaccine and you already have some sort of underlying condition which has not been detected or diagnosed, you are always at risk. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's because of the
The
the vaccine itself that a healthy person will suddenly get something and go into some sort of a major issue like heart attack or something, unless they already had an underlying issue which was manifested due because of the vaccine or whatever it is. mRNA vaccine, again, it's very new, so there's not enough data how people would react to this in the long run, or now there's being data generated, but there I cannot. But again, unless there is a link, there's a link which is scientifically proper between these incidences. Yeah, we call it adverse outcomes. Uh, which, for example, normal procedure when you test the vaccine and everything, every adverse event has to be reported to the FDA or whatever, ICMR or whatever it is, and then they investigate if it is actually linked to the vaccine or it is some other underlying condition, and then they come out with the data and get the approvals. And Yeah, with the COVID thing, like I said, it was expedited approval. So it's not, you cannot really say there's enough data to say it's not linked. But I wouldn't say, right away that there is a link as well, because there's no data to suggest that there's a link as well. More work has to be done. This is why, research and science is important, because, lots of people come up with lots of theories who don't know the background, who don't understand concept behind this, the mechanism of action behind this. So it's always nice to have the scientists work on that and produce data which says, okay, these were linked to the vaccine, and that that has to be changed, or it has to be modified, or it has to be stopped, or whatever it is. And these are adverse events that were not because of the vaccine. It's because of some underlying conditions which were already there, which were manifested by the vaccine. Because what vaccine does is it activates the immune system pretty much. That is where the vaccines come into picture. You take a vaccine for your immune system to be activated against that particular virus or bacteria, whatever it is, so that the next time you get infected, your immune system recognizes it immediately and fights it immediately, so that you don't go into proper infection. So the vaccine is doing its job. It's activating your immune system. When your immune system gets activated, if you have some underlying condition which can be affected by the immune system, then yeah, of course, the vaccine did its job, but you do have some underlying conditions which could get affected, and there's adverse outcome. Yeah, that has to be tested by the doctors or stuff like that, and to say that the vaccine is safe. Some people are allergic to the adjuvant, what you call the additives which you add to the vaccine, because the vaccine comes in liquid format, IV and stuff. Some people are allergic to the emulsion, let's say. That the whole thing has to be tested, and if you know that you are allergic to it, you cannot take it. But some people really don't know. But in India, to be honest, almost everybody knows if they're allergic or not, because they've been vaccinated right from the beginning. Right when you're born, they're given vaccinated BCG and everything. They've been vaccinated, so people would know if they're allergic to the adjuvant which is added in the vaccine. So they should know. But yeah, there are cases here and there, but I wouldn't say it's 100% linked to the vaccine itself, unless some hard data has been provided.
Maybe in coming days it will come.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully. I mean, people are churning data.
Yes,
They've been working on it, so I'm sure they'll come up with the data saying that this is linked to this or it's not.
So, what do you think? Like Indian startup ecosystem, like truly supports biotech innovation, or it is more inclined towards like other IT and fintech ventures?
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, biotech is not the highest priority, and understandably so. Especially when it comes to places like Bangalore and Hyderabad and stuff like that, which are called startup hubs. There's a biotech park in Bangalore as well. There's a biotech park in Hyderabad as well, where there are companies and there is something going on. But yeah, the priority is always, I guess, when it comes to these hubs, it's IT. Development of IT infrastructure, or apps, and those sort of related things. And then yeah, there are other things, rightfully so. People are looking at agrotech and climate and stuff like that, which is understandable, given the Indian economy and how much agriculture plays a role in India. Biotech as such, especially biomedicine, let's say, it's not the highest priority, because end of the day, they know there are places which are really up there when it comes to this. And there is, just to give an example, I mean, Boston, for example, when it comes to biomedicine, you cannot beat it. They have the infrastructure like crazy. I mean, of course, the best universities. There's Harvard, there's MIT, there's Tufts, there's all those Boston University. Everything is in one place, and the best hospitals, for example, Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston Children's Hospital, Brigham and Women, everything is in that one confined area, and all the big pharma companies are there. So that infrastructure is there. And when I moved to Copenhagen, there was a reason why I went there, because they have something called as a Medicon Valley. Even they are trying to copy, Boston and Cambridge ecosystem, and trying to develop a Nordic ecosystem, the Nordic countries, and they've created something called as a Medicon Valley, just for the Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark, and these countries. So they are also trying to put together the medical colleges and research infrastructure together to create ecosystem, which really does not exist right now in almost any cities in India, let's say, because for the ecosystem to develop, you need to have some pharma companies, some universities who are like really into this biomedical research, and then incubators and accelerators who incubate the startups. And Bangalore to a certain extent has some of those, because ISC has an incubator accelerator program, and CCAMP, Center for Cellular Molecular, CCAMP has a good incubator, and the biotechnology ignition grant, for example, goes through them. I've been through that ringer a couple of times. Went to the last round, but didn't end up getting the funding for the startup. But yeah, it's limited. There's no that much priority given, let's say, when compared to the other sectors, because. Yeah, you have to look at your strong points. IT is your strong point, so you definitely try to build on that, and then you look at your needs. For example, agri-tech, for example, is one of the needs for India, because lots of people depend on agriculture. Climate, for example, again, you has to be done, especially I'm sure you're from Delhi, with the crop burning and with the pollution. It's yeah, climate is getting worse and worse, and people growing up there, especially children, are right from the young age they've been suffering, and they've been exposed to this. So
It is called like if you are in Delhi, so breathing in Delhi, it's like you are smoking 100 cigarettes a day.
exactly.
So it's very pathetic, like in Delhi.
So imagine growing up like that. I mean, as a kid, you're more prone to all sort of illnesses. You start developing asthma and bronchitis right from the beginning. And I don't know the statistics, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure compared to some other places, a city like Delhi has
It's like the air quality index
yeah,
reaches their maximum every
maximum.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
Especially during the crop
Diwali,
burning
crop
and
burning,
yeah,
Diwali, that
Diwali
November,
time. Yeah.
October time. One thing I really want you to like share it here now. First thing is like if someone is interested to enter into microbiology, so
Yeah.
they stay in India and study, or they should move to abroad, plus a medical education, because there are so many people who are fascinated about the degrees of like studying in China and Denmark and all those
Yeah.
countries. So is it worth it to go study there and then come back to India and practice, or how this
See,
thing?
microbiology, I can share some knowledge, because I've been through the ringer. I mean, for people from my generation and even now, I guess, when you reach a certain point after your masters, uh, your opportunities are very very limited, very limited. So there are not that much opportunities when it comes to that. So it's yeah, if you're looking to pursue a higher degree like a PhD and get into research, there are very 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 limited opportunities. The number of people who pass out of universities with a master's degree in microbiology or biomedical sciences is huge. So there's not enough opportunity to go ahead from there over here. So of course you have to choose a different country if you want to pursue. And after your master's degree, what are you going to do? I mean, in India, how many chances do you have? You get into quality control, or you get into manufacturing or things like that. If you want to really get into deeper or higher positions like research, R&D, and stuff like that, yeah, either you go to the job scene and spend 15 years and learn that thing and then get promoted, or you go outside, get trained, and then join the labor force in that way. So the Yeah, it's pretty limited. So yeah, that's why people usually, especially in the biomedical field, after a certain time, they definitely would prefer going outside because there's so much output from the universities. I don't think the Indian ecosystem can really sustain it. So of course, people look from outside. When it comes to medical education, I'm not personally qualified to talk about it because I've been in biomedicine, but I'm not a medical doctor. So the fascination I can understand because the seats are very limited, and yeah, the good colleges where there is good education also is further limited. So people, yeah, I mean, choose other countries. Let's say, I mean, these countries like US and Europe, I guess it's much more difficult to get into a medical school than countries like China and, for example, just Ukraine we saw an example, and Russia and stuff like that. So I guess the next option would be going there. Although you cannot come back and practice over here, all that you have to do is take up a competitive exam and pass the bar, and then of course you can practice over here. It's not like your MBBS or the degree is not valid. Only thing you cannot practice because you don't have the accreditation or the competitive exam which you have to pass to practice in India. Once you've done that, of course you will. And let's say these countries, maybe it's cheaper as well because medical education as well is it's quite expensive in India. So people like, okay, if I'm spending so much of money, if it's not the best medical school in India, I'd rather go outside and spend maybe a little lesser money and then come back and pass my bar exams or whatever it is, and then take up the profession. Or from there, if you want to go some other country, if you want to go to the US, you can, again, you have to pass the bar exams, you study for it, pass the bar exam, do your MD there, and it opens up a lot of doors. So I can see why people are choosing that, but personally, I know I really cannot shed much light into it because I haven't followed that path. So
See, one thing, like because you have founded startups,
yeah, one
you,
startup, yeah,
okay, and then you have worked with global innovators, you have
yeah,
mentored
yeah,
them, and then you were involved in so many health projects.
yeah.
Okay, so, with all of your journey, if you can share any one or whatever, like life changing or defining moment for you that changed your complete perspective towards the
Or,
world.
like I said, right in the beginning, St. John's. I mean, that was the one which really got me on this path because before that I wasn't very clear of what I wanted to do. And when this project came, even though I'm a microbiologist and most of my work was in the lab, what happened with this project was we were looking for a population which is called the high risk population. So we had to set up sites in the rural parts of Karnataka like Mudol and Jamkandi, which are in northern Karnataka, where there is a high risk population. There's a system called as a Devdasi system. Now, I'm not going to go into much details on that because yeah, I can go on days on that because it's crazy. So we went there, and I had to set up labs there. There's no proper facilities, so we rented the house, and we converted the kitchen into the lab. So because the kitchen has the slabs, right, the stone slabs, we made it as the workbench, and we converted the kitchen in the lab. The living room was the reception area, and then the rooms where one room was for counseling, the other room was for blood draw, and all that. So we went there, and that is when I saw the ground reality. Until then, okay, you learn all the theory and you see it on the news and stuff like that. You don't really get to recognize or see what's happening on the ground level with the patients. And I got into right away the most horrific sort of a thing, which was HIV. And I saw people, yeah, I saw the ground reality of what was happening and how these people were suffering. And that just triggered something in me which started the whole journey. Until then, like I said, I wasn't very clear on what I wasn't even very clear of if I wanted to even get into medical microbiology. Yeah, but once I got into the ground reality of it, I saw actual people, being infected, and the journey they go through and what options they have, and how they suffer. And and did proper groundwork. Like I said, converted the kitchen into the lab and set up stuff over there to do this sort of projects and stuff like that. That really got my, got me going. Let's say, got me into this path. So I would say that definitely was the defining moment for me to start and then continue pursuing the same path to whatever I did later. So that would I definitely I would say that was the defining moment. Yeah.
See, in Asli Kahani now, we celebrate and we appreciate the journey.
Yeah.
So I really want that key, whatever time you have spent in the industry. So if you get chance or if you can share, because we always feel like if we can start something from here, like any change, we believe in change. So if you want any changes or if you suggest what all changes we should bring in the medical ecosystem or maybe education from your experience, if you can just share few.
Yeah, like I said, so let's start with the education system right from the beginning. I mean, I would really suggest, especially in the at the master's level, more importance should be given to training people in research, scientific exploration. Let's say instead of just sticking to the theoretical part where somebody else has done all the work and all the research, and they've published this, and you're just reading it and trying to understand what it is. And second thing, internship. Bridging the gap between being a fresher and being ready to get into the workforce. So these are the two things I would really would like to see in the education system. Because I mean, for example, master's level, unless you get into a university like I said, which is heavily into research like IISc or something like that, during a master's level degree, you're not really, let's say, exposed to research, which I believe is really important to move forward in the field and explore more and more things. If you start training them right from the beginning, then even when you join, let's say you join a pharma company or whatever it is, you're always trained to think and trained to see the patterns and see what is strange and how to tackle it, and that really helps in the later stages. Second thing, like I said, bridging the gap.
Yeah.
Make internships mandatory and make the universities tie up with the companies to make sure that they provide internships for everybody. It's a very huge task because the number of students who doing their masters are quite a lot, and I don't think the companies are I mean, they don't have enough capability to take all of them as interns. But if they make it as a culture, then maybe slowly they started developing. Now the startups are coming, so it doesn't have to be a big company. Maybe in a startup, maybe in the government sector, the government departments can host interns. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, all these government departments are sitting there. The government employees, they sit there, have their tea, and do a little bit work here and there. Train some interns. Take some interns from the colleges and see how the bureaucracy works, how the government system works. How maybe a fresh mind can maybe come up with something new and change the entire government departments and for the better. So why not? Why not government departments host interns? Why does it just have to be the private sector? No, that is for the let's say education system. Healthcare again. Healthcare. I mean, I hear so much of this Atmanirbhar Bharat, make in India. Okay, fine, I can understand that, but why to only certain sectors? Yeah, apply it, in all the sectors.
Yeah.
Look at biomedicines. I mean, invest more in those sectors which are neglected. I know that, okay, I am just speaking. I mean, we are still a developing nation with a huge population and a limited budget. So you have to allocate resources intelligently. But optimistically, I'm saying, why not make Atmanirbhar Bharat in all the sectors? Yeah. For example, during the COVID time, they started producing so fast the masks and the equipments for oxygen and oxygen supply. So fast they did it. Why not continue that trend? Yeah. Why not? Why stop there? Because there was an emergency. I did it. Now, then you just forget about it. Why is that? Why not continue that trend? You started something, continue it. Yeah, start production in India and start producing. Not just generics or licensed stuff. Big pharma companies in Europe and US are coming up with this thing. You're just licensing them and producing them and selling them. No, make it over here, make compounds over here, makes vaccines over here, and then sell it to the world. Why not? Why not become Atmanirbhar in the biomedical field as well?
And why to wait for emergencies?
Yeah, exactly. To get these people to start really working, and then what they did was they supplied the entire world with the products.
True.
Yeah, why stop there? Why exactly stop there? Because that is a time where nothing else was there. Everybody was concerned about that, and everybody was sitting at home. None of the other sectors were working, so it got attention. And see what happened. I mean, we set an example. For example, to be honest, why not take that start and progress forward, right? Do the same thing. Keep moving forward in each sector. I mean, yeah. For example, even the space sector, India is doing so well. Yeah, allocate something to medical field also, biomedicine.
See, as you spent a nice time, like good time in India and abroad. So, what gives you hope that India will do better in coming years?
Younger generation.
Yeah.
I'm really optimistic because let's be honest. I mean, let's say generation before us, like my father's generation, they were much more into just get a degree and join the workforce. And that time it was like Gulf countries were like happening, yeah, and people didn't really explore going abroad to educate them. Like my father's generation, not a lot of them went outside for studies. Yeah, they just went outside to find work, and then earn some money, support the family. My generation onwards, what is happening is people are going outside to get a better education, and get the knowledge. And now because of the internet and everything is changing, the knowledge is being dispersed as well. So the knowledge is being dispersed, so everything has become more and more, let's say, proactive. People are not just okay. Even if people settle in US, right, people are coming back very often to India and trying to do something over here, and trying to these people who have gotten educated, done something there and made a career, they're trying to come back, especially in the IT sector. Lots of them are coming back and setting up startups, setting up their own businesses over here, taking the knowledge there and developing stuff over here. So yeah, that is something which really brings me optimism. And the younger generation has become even more tech savvy. I mean, people like they know how to code now. I mean, they're proficient in using AIs. Yeah, you just download ChatGPT on your phone. You just ask them some questions, and people are the younger generation is getting more and more, and they're more exposed as well. Because now with the internet and yeah, something like podcasts and other material which is available online, people don't have to really travel to explore some culture or explore some new place. They can get the knowledge from the internet, from the the whatever resources are available. Second thing, one thing which I really appreciate is the internet connectivity in India. I mean, let's be honest. It's amazing.
Correct.
If you look at some of the European countries, it's pretty bad. US, it's okay. If you pay good money, you get good connection. But there is, if the small connections, if you pay the minimum amount, it's not that great. Same thing in Europe. But in India, even if you paying in, 1 or 2 rupees or whatever it is, the connectivity is really good. So access to internet, I'm talking about. Yeah, it's India is on a different level altogether compared to the rest of the world. I mean, it's really going there. And the younger generation is really getting into this new technology stuff. They're trying to go outside, learn, come back, apply it. And yeah, the whole globalization process is really, I think, driving India and the younger generation of India to in the right direction. So that is something I am really optimistic about. And yeah, one thing again, when you asked what you want to change, yeah, I would really say, okay, the political scenario, let's say. I mean, yeah, I would really want this old, uneducated people to just retire and give the younger generation who have some sort of knowledge and education to come up in the political system, and start taking positions and start moving things in the right direction. Because everything is going in the right direction, but there are still this old people who are ruling the entire political system, which has to stop. I mean, which really has to stop.
I don't know like how much it is possible, but I always feel that we have different kind of eligibility criteria for
Yeah.
almost everything.
Yeah, why not
I don't know
politics?
why not
Why
for
not politics?
politicians.
I mean, especially since you are going to be running the country or the state or whatever it is, they should make it. I mean, some guy should say, okay, let's put in a bill saying that the minimum qualification has to be there for everybody who files a,
Qualification, like some knowledge.
yeah,
There must be something, not
something,
only the
something.
quality. Oh, I want people should go with the quality, not the quantity.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they are winning just because of quantity. If you have quantity, you will sit on the chair.
No, but yeah, I mean there were some really good upcoming young politicians who were who were nowhere to be seen now.
Maybe after coming years, in coming years, we might see more
Prop up
better.
again, but why not now? I mean, in the coming years, when they come into spotlight, again they'll be over 50s.
True. And one more thing I want you to share, like what all challenges, because as when we were like discussing, we heard that you got robbed
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Paris. So what all when people are like, because so many people will definitely every year they are moving out to studies and to work, what all they should be aware and like what all challenges they'll be facing there. So
Okay, there's a huge list of that. Let's be honest. Let's start right from the scratch. First thing, housing. Yeah, everywhere you have to. Once you decide to move outside, the first thing you look for is housing, and let's say the most preferred destinations always are filled with scams. Housing scams are like rampant everywhere. There are people who post fake ads and try to make a lot of money out of these housing schemes. So you have to be very very careful. If you're going outside for studies, contact your international department, international students office. Make sure you stick to the websites or the agencies which are approved by the international department. So they'll do their research and they'll say these are the people who are approved, and go by that. Don't go on Craigslist or Facebook ads. There are lots of scammers there. You end up paying the advance and stuff like that, then go there and you're on the streets. Starting, first thing. Second thing, get your documentations right. Yeah, especially in the current scenario where people are become more and more anti-immigrants in the Western world. Always make sure don't cut corners, because there are lots. I've seen lots of students. Okay, they try to cut corners. They try to stay with the friend and here and there. They don't have a proper address and this and that, which will put a huge black mark on your immigration status. So do it right. Even if you're in a sharing accommodation, make sure you have a proper contract, which can be registered and everything. So make sure you do the paperwork right, and your paperwork is perfect. See, like what's happening in the US right now, any discrepancy and you have been kicked out. So what does it take? It doesn't take much. You don't try to be over smart, try to save a penny, then to be kicked out, right? So do the things the correct way. You're gone there, you're spending money for your education. You don't try to cut corners by saving a few dollars here and there by doing saving here and there for stupid things. Make sure your documentation is right. Once you got your address, make sure your documentation is right, everything is clear. Second thing, yeah, try to diversify your circle. One thing I've really seen is like people stick to a bunch. Yeah, everywhere you go, there's this diaspora, what you call, and people try to find the same
similar people.
people from Karnataka. They say, yeah,
Let's make a
somebody
groups.
make a groups. People from each part of the world, they start making group. If not anything, there'll be an Indian group and they start mingling with those. They don't explore the local culture. The more you integrate, the better the chances of you are to get a job, to move ahead and get a proper pay or whatever it is. If you just stay in that community, you're not exploring the country and the resources and the opportunities which comes with networking. Because let's be honest, right now, even in the job scene and everything, networking has become very very important. So explore get to know the culture. When you go outside and want to give an interview, you should know the local culture and everything. So that is another thing. Explore the culture. Safety. Yeah. It depends on where you are. Like I said, I mean, how many countries? I mean, apart from India, I've lived in 4 countries, and I was fine. I was fine in Italy. I was fine in US. I was fine in Denmark. Paris, I knew that there are reports. Lots of people have been. I mean, it's common news. The metros are not safe. You get mugged. You get pickpockets are rampant everywhere. But I was like, yeah, I've traveled so much. I was overconfident. Yeah, nah. Be careful. Whatever it is, be careful. Make sure that you don't really carry your passport in your pockets and stuff like that, because that will become even more of an issue. I had all my, except for my passport, I had all my documents, like all as Indians do, all the Aadhaar card, the
The big
driver's
fat
license.
wallet with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cards
driver's
and
license,
documents.
Aadhaar card, all their, debit cards and everything.
Mm.
Everything was gone. Cell phone, again, that is also gone. And what happens is, usually these people have become very savvy nowadays. They know with your cards, the app is also there on your phone. So they, yeah, I mean, in my case, they try to add beneficiaries to my account, and try to transfer the money and all that nonsense. Yeah, it was a pain. So when people say certain city, be careful. Yeah, be careful. Because there's no smoke without a fire, let's say. So it's be careful, especially if you're going initially. See, because once you been there for some time, you understand what is happening. You get to know the ropes, let's say. But initially, when you go to a new place, yeah, be a little bit careful, and listen to people. I mean, you can join some of these groups, expats in, for example, they're all always on Facebook. There's a group, Indians in Paris, Indians in Boston, Indians in Rome. Just try and join the group, but make sure that you don't stick to the group, and explore connections with the locals as well. Language, again, make sure, if you're going to an English speaking country, fine. If you're going to a non English speaking country, you would think that, okay, in the modern era, everybody speaks English. Nah. That's a misconception. So make sure you know at least the basics to communicate, and you know uh, find your way through.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're going to
Very
be
difficult.
lost in a new city, new country, without the language. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. So these are the things. These are the main things. Just, yeah, to really consider when you're moving outside. So
It's like because you are like ocean of knowledge, so we have so many things to discuss. But again, considering time, okay, we'll be like doing more sessions in coming days, and like so few things before like we'll wind up
yeah,
today's session.
sure.
A few more things I want to cover, like as we spoke about the cancer thing and all.
Yeah.
So the role of counseling, because as we discussed, like the
Yes.
knowledge required a lot that plays a role. So, what's the role of counseling when it comes to mainly cancer kind of disease or any other disease also?
Yeah, I'll tell you the role, because I mean, I'm not going to go specifically into cancer or oncology, because that is not my area of expertise. I know very well the HIV scene, because everywhere we went to do a project, like I said, even if it was a house, we had one room which is just for counselors. If a person is tested positive, then we have to provide counseling. Yeah. So right from the beginning, once a person is tested positive, say for HIV, the counseling starts. How to cope with it, because like cancer, even with these diseases, let's say death sentence diseases, that they used to be called, now it's not, because now you can be HIV positive and never progress into AIDS, and live the rest of your life normally taking antiretrovirals. I mean, there are lots of examples. Magic Johnson, for example, is one of the most famous one. He's living healthily with being HIV positive for such a long time now. You don't need to, if you take your medicines, you don't have to progress into AIDS. The same thing with cancer as well. If it's detected early, and the proper course of treatment is given, you can beat it, or you can survive it for a long time, unless certain kinds which are yeah, nothing can be done. But when it comes to counseling, again, there are phases a person goes through, even with HIV infection or with cancer. I'm not going to go through every phase, the denial and blah 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 blah, and acceptance in the end. So going through that process, that's first thing first. I mean, whatever it is, even if you know that, even myself being very well educated and being in the field for such a long time, if I get a HIV positive test, I'll be terrified.
Correct.
Yeah, it's psychological. It's like I know that everything is fine. You can take the uh, pills and you can survive even cancer. Although I'm not an oncologist, I've interacted with a lot of researchers in the oncology field, and HIV itself is linked to certain types of cancer. So I studied it a little bit, but the thing is, yeah, you as soon as you get that diagnosis, the fear sets in. It's normal. It's psychological. So that is where the communication and the counseling comes in. These counselors are trained and they know exactly what are the phases, psychological phases a person goes through once they get the diagnosis, and then prescription, and then during chemotherapy what sort of counseling needs to be done, because those kind of phases, it's very easy to lose hope, because already you have a diagnosis which is weighing on your head, plus you're going through chemo, which puts you in a very bad physical condition, and it's, let's say, poisonous pretty much. So each stage, there needs to be proper counseling to people to cope with it. And yeah, people ignore that to a certain extent, but that is something really important for a person to recover from these diagnoses, let's say. For the person, I mean, sometimes you cannot, there's no way, nothing can be done, but still, even in those cases, the counselor can actually put your mind to ease and get you into palliative care. At least, palliative care, what they say is, at least until the time you are here, you will make your life as comfortable as possible. So there also the counseling really helps to put you in a certain frame of mind where you accept that, okay, this is what is happening and I have to go through this. There's no point stressing myself more and going more into pain or whatever it is. So the counseling really, really should be given preference in these sort of conditions where people are going through a lot of stuff. As soon as they get the diagnosis, you are automatically put in a bad frame of mind. So each process, there should be counseling and there should be counselors who help you through the entire stage. And most of the time, when this is involved and you get the right advice, people tend to come out in a positive way and beat the disease to a certain extent.
You've been a scientist, researcher, entrepreneur, mentor, educator. After like being in so many versatile fields, what success looks to you?
First of all, I mean, I'm happy that I was able to contribute something from my side, doing during all this research and everything. Moving on, I would again would like to say that I want to bring something at this point, since I am transitioning into the commercial aspect. I want to bring out technologies, which was the whole idea behind going into entrepreneurship and then doing MBA, to commercialize innovation. Because what's happening is most of these universities, they do some very, very innovative research, and they file for patents and all this. The technology is sitting somewhere in the technology transfer office or some lab somewhere, which is not being commercialized. So that would be something which I would consider as success, if I'm able to take this technology, even if it's not developed in house, take the technology developed by some universities, like big universities who file for patent, take that and translate into something commercial that can help the entire world. I mean, since I'm in the medical field, it's not for just one population here, one population there. If a new technology comes, for new diagnostic technique or new treatment for something, new vaccine or new alternate to antibiotic, for example, right now there's a huge problem with the antimicrobial resistance. The antibiotics are not really working as they should, because people are getting more and more, not people, the bacteria are getting more and more resistant to antibiotics. So something new comes up, some new compound which can be treated, and some new technology. If I can take one of those innovation, as being a scientist, already I know that so much effort has gone into it. Of that sitting in a corner in some office, in some professor's office or a technology transfer office in some university, if I can take that and commercialize it, at least one or two of these things that could at least change the future in biomedicine to a certain extent. I'm not saying treatment for cancer, vaccine for HIV. No, something which could really help the medical field of biomedicine to progress uh, by the commercialization of this. That I think I would consider as a success. To take something innovative, and there are lots of hurdles to, but take something really innovative and bring it to commercialization and make it accessible to everybody. Because, like I said, biomedicine, it doesn't really apply to one population. It's worldwide. Everybody will profit from it. So that is something I would advocate, and I would really would consider a success if I'm able to do that.
See, that's what at Asli Kahani, the idea and like the initiative is we want to record as many experiences possible, because what we believe every human being has like so much of thing what they have done during their journey, and at one day we all have to leave this world. So whatever experiences we have, that is very valuable. So we want to reserve or preserve as many experience as possible as we did today, and so we will be like, if you can just share, like if any, and because we believe to make society a better place to live, so if you can share something that everyone can start and how they can start contributing to the society, what all they can, small steps if they can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can add anything new. Everything has been said, but nothing has been practiced. Everybody's been saying everything. For a long time. It's not like you have to take. You go, and try to change the world right from the beginning. It's baby steps. You one person, unless you are in the position to actually bring about change, one person cannot really bring about a huge amount of change, but you can still start and do whatever is possible. Everybody has a life, the career, the family, and then financial stress, and they want to buy. Everybody has that. So one small step towards the right thing, whatever the cause may be. For me, it's the biomedical field or medicine. You might look at another cause. You might look at something environmental, for example. Lakes in Bangalore are polluted. Try and do something about it. You see plastic and filth lying everywhere. Try and make a small step. Try and make a community where uh, you guys can gather during weekends or something like that, and try and do something. So yeah, this has been said a lot of time. I'm sure everybody has said it, but the thing is, yeah, you have to be passionate about one thing and take the right steps forward. And second thing I've seen is, yeah, if you try to do too many things, you end up not doing one thing properly. Yeah. So if you're really passionate about something, social cause apart from yourself, if you're really passionate about a social cause, if you're not, try to find a passion, and then take small steps and do whatever you can to make it one step at a time. I mean, it doesn't have to be big. I mean, sometimes it snowballs. The passion becomes a career, and then you may be able to do a lot of difference. Even if you cannot, I mean, if everybody does something, then even the people in power will notice. I mean, not just the people in power. Right now, because of the media, I mean, if you take an initiative, everybody will notice. Yeah, you can go to social media and post your stuff there, so you can get noticed, and it will snowball. But take a step.
Like
Take
every
a
step matters,
Yeah.
and to reach somewhere we have to start.
Yeah, so you have to start. So first, identify your passion. What is a cause which you're passionate about, you can really care about, and then take a step towards it. And now with the new generation and the media, everything, you just have to put in some effort, and yeah, it will snowball, and hopefully change the situation for the younger generation, your kids, and maybe in the future, other people will reap the benefits, not you, but still you at
Still,
least are peaceful, saying that okay, I did something for the future generation.
you plant the seeds and fruits, enjoy
Yeah,
your
yeah,
coming
yeah.
generations. So thanks a lot, Kevin sir, again
Thank you for having me.
like
Yeah, it's been a
um,
nice conversation. Yeah.
yeah, we have a like small appreciation token
Oh,
for you, so we
I
want to
mean,
present that. And this is like mug. We want everyone to
yeah.
remind us every day morning, and this is one small.
Thank you so much. Yeah, much appreciated. I mean, it has been a nice time. I really appreciate it because like you are taking a step towards doing something good. So if everybody continues to do that, I really appreciate the initiative and the effort. And it's been nice. I mean, it's been nice talking and covering all the topics. And thanks for having me. It's been a
Thanks a
pleasure.
lot, sir. Keep watching Asli Kahani. We'll be coming with so many amazing discussions in coming days.